Okay, there's an old proverb, 2 Jews, 3 opinions. So it doesn't matter what one segment of the Jewish population thinks about Hillary. The key thing is, of course, that Hillary represents Obama and the Democratic Party, and Obama and the Democratic Party have a history on the Middle East. And one of the most interesting things about Obama is that his White House Chief of Staff, Rahm Emanuel, okay, is so passionately Zionist. He was born into his father was an Israeli who fought in the Zionist revisionist underground in the period around 1948, and then came to Chicago as a doctor, all right? And Rahm was born in Chicago, but when he was a kid, he would be sent to camp in the summertime in Israel. So he's fluent in Hebrew, which is very unusual for American Jews who hate Hebrew classes as a like. All right, I mean, that's the reality. All right, and the point is that he and his father come from what is known as the Zionist revisionist tradition. That is to say, his father was in the Irgun, which means National Military Organization, was the organization of Vladimir Jabotinsky, okay, who wrote an article in 1923 called The Iron Wall. All right, and it is a classic. I recommend that everybody read it, pro-Zionist, anti-Zionist, etc., because it's really like Zionism 101.
Tell the name of the book again.
It's not a book, it's an article called The Iron Wall. He wrote it in 1923, and what he simply said was, look, guys, all you Zionists, I mean, we're Zionists, etc., but I have news for you. The Arabs are the natives in the country, and like all natives, civilized or savage, they are not interested in sharing their country with foreigners who come in. So all of this Zionist colonialism, and he repeatedly uses the word colonial, okay, in the article, has to be done behind an iron wall. And what he meant literally was an iron wall of British bayonets, you say, to keep down the natives, all right, with helmets. You know, and this is colonialism 101, you know, right? Now, someday we'll have Jewish bayonets, etc., but it's got to be done behind bayonets. And that's, sorry, I mean, all you guys, I know you want to create a wonderful Jewish state and solve all the problems, but it's got to be done behind an iron wall. Right? Now, he called himself a Zionist revisionist because they had gotten the League of Nations mandate for Palestine to set up a Jewish national home. But Palestine, you see, meant then Palestine and Jordan, okay? And all of a sudden the British realized that's too much. I mean, you know, we got uses for Jordan, you know, right? So they took Jordan away from the Zionists, okay? And the Zionists figured, listen, there are no Jews in Jordan, and we don't have the money, so let them have it, okay? But Jabotinsky said, no, you can't do that, because if the Arabs see that the British have taken away Jordan from Zionism, that will encourage them, the Arabs, to keep going until they take away Palestine from the Zionists. So we have to demand that the British revise their takeaway of Jordan. So they became known as the Zionist revisionists. Right? And that is 101, Zionism 101. Zionism is a colonial settler movement done behind an iron wall of weaponry.
I hear.
Only in partial disagreement with the interpretation of the facts. Zionism revisionism also has a very big religious connotation. Jordan is biblical Israel. Jordan was never meant not to include a Jewish homeland. Jordan is the land of King David and Solomon and the 12 tribes, and was never meant to be ceded to the British for the fake Hashemite kingdom, which was the loser in a battle with the Saud kingdom from Saudi Arabia. They lost in a fight with the swords, and the British rewarded them with the land for the Jews to make a sort of a pot. If you look at the shape of Transjordan, it's to separate Saudi Arabia from Syria, to protect Saudi Arabia from Syria. So they formed this pot-shaped thing, this helmet-shaped thing, to safeguard their Saudi Arabia from Syria. It was Jewish homeland given away, 2/3 of a mandate for the Jewish homeland. What was the British had a right to it in the first place? I don't know. It came from the Ottoman Empire. What right did the British have to it? The British were the colonialists. The French were the colonialists. Never the Jews. The Jews were waiting for their homeland for thousands of years that every country had taken away from them. Now, as far as Rahm Emanuel, Alavai, as they say. I wish that Rahm Emanuel had such a passion for Israel. Under President Clinton, this guy couldn't get enough of Arafat. Neither could Clinton. They both invited Arafat, that arch-terrorist, to the White House more than any head of state. And Arafat wasn't the head of state. And he came to the White House time and time. He was even there when Monica Lewinsky was announced. I mean, every time you looked at the White House, there was Arafat. You can't tell me that Rahm Emanuel is such a lover of Israel if this is where his heart is yearning. And to see him back again, well, I wish him well. First of all, I understand he was a ballet dancer, and I'm very happy to see that a man of letters and arts is the chief of staff. So that is a good sign. And today, President Obama was with the Department of Interior overturning some legislation from President Bush and saving endangered species. And if he and Rahm Emanuel agree with that, more power to them, and a plus for that. Israel happens to have the Society to Preserve Nature in Israel, and 50% of the population at least support that. I don't know anywhere in the Muslim world where they preserve nature, and I wish they did, and I wish we could encourage that. But that is the essential element, is the land. The love of the land is where we must aim in the Middle East. As far as the iron wall, there's no way to win in the Middle East unless you have that. And Alavai, they should have an iron wall. I would support an iron wall, but there is no iron wall. So happens that every inch of land was bought and paid for and settled with Jewish blood, and this was before the Holocaust. This was at the great settlement, expense, and travail, and believe me, the Zionism is just one more nationalist movement. It is not colonialist. The Jews were never colonialists. They didn't have the weapons or the ability or the country. Colonialism means you come from a country and you come from an occupying power. The Jews never could, never did, never would.
Okay. I kicked the ball now. I am reading from Vladimir Jabotinsky, who, now you talked about all this religion and the Holy Land, both sides of the Jordan, etc. Vladimir Jabotinsky didn't have a religious bone in his body.
Agreed.
Okay. Nor did David Ben-Gurion, the first
also agreed.
Prime Minister.
But no argument there.
They wanted to create a Jewish nation, and they figured that whatever Orthodox would come their way would lose their orthodoxy in the bath of modernism that they were going to present to them.
The basic agreement.
Okay, all right. Now, we have 3 minutes each. No interruptions.
No
interruptions.
But there's no dispute.
Sir, no interruptions, sir. Good, sir. Debate, fair, back and forth, okay? This is Jabotinsky, not columnist. He goes on to say, my readers have a general idea of the history of colonization in other countries. I suggest that they consider all the precedents with which they are acquainted and see whether there is only one instance of any colonization being carried on with the consent of the native population. Colonization carries its own explanation, the only possible explanation, unalterable and as clear as daylight to every ordinary Jew and every ordinary Arab. Colonization can only have one aim, and the Palestinian Arabs cannot accept this aim. Zionist colonization must either stop or else proceed regardless of the native population, which means that it can proceed and develop only under the protection of a power that is independent of the native population. behind an iron wall with which the native population cannot